Over 200 health facilities in eastern Congo are facing critical medicine shortages, a direct result of ongoing conflict and collapsing humanitarian funding. A new assessment by the International Committee of the Red Cross reveals that 80% of clinics in North and South Kivu, provinces ravaged by war, are operating without any external support. Many have no access to basic treatments for malaria, HIV, and tuberculosis. The fighting driven by the Rwandan-backed M23 rebels has made it nearly impossible to transport medicine across front lines, even when supplies exist. Over 3,000 people have been killed this year and 7 million are now displaced, deepening what's already one of the world's worst humanitarian crises. Health workers are fleeing, patients are dying, and thousands of lives continue to hang in the balance. This isn't just a medical emergency, it's a humanitarian catastrophe, and the world's attention and action is desperately needed.
India's Supreme Court has agreed to hear a PIL seeking a CBI probe on a systematic reform in the drug safety mechanism in connection with the Coldriff cough syrup tragedy. The plea will be heard on the 10th of October. Additionally, the Madhya Pradesh police has arrested the owner of the pharmaceutical company behind the product that is linked to the deaths of at least 25 children, including 22 in Madhya Pradesh alone. Meanwhile, Madhya Pradesh's Chief Minister Mohan Yadav paid a visit to AIIMS in Nagpur, where he met with the victims undergoing treatment after consuming the cough syrup.
I've come to meet the sick children who were admitted after drinking poisonous cough syrup. We have supported the administration. The Nagpur administration is also worried. The doctors of AIIMS are also worried. Madhya Pradesh BJP President Hemant Khandelwal, our MP Bunty Sahu, and all our doctors and all of us are trying in every way to ensure that no one faces any problem.
G. Ranganathan, the owner of the Tamil Nadu-based Sreesan Pharma, was arrested in Chennai after being accused of manufacturing Coldriff cough syrup and was produced before the Metropolitan Magistrates Court in Saidapet. Now, the SP of Madhya Pradesh's Chindwara district has said that Ranganathan will be brought on transit remand and will be interrogated. An investigation by the Tamil Nadu government following the spate of cough syrup-related deaths has revealed that nearly about 300 safety lapses happened at his pharma facility, including the presence of high levels of diethylene glycol. Now, the officials suspect that the company used non-pharmaceutical grade chemicals, leading to the presence of toxic industrial solvents in the syrup. The Tamil Nadu government has also issued a show-cause notice to Sreesan Pharma and has shut down the factory. In connection with the tragedy, 2 drug inspectors as well as the Deputy Director of the Food and Drug Administration and a drug controller have been either suspended or have been transferred. The Madhya Pradesh's Chief Minister Mohan Yadav has ordered for a statewide ban on Coldriff syrup and for the seizure of its remaining stock. The state government is taking strict action against those responsible. In Maharashtra, the Food and Drug Administration has launched a special drive to inspect and to test the liquid oral formulations stocked by hospitals and distributors. The World Health Organization has also stepped in. It is seeking clarification from India over the export and domestic circulation of the contaminated syrup. And WION's principal correspondent Siddharth MP is tracking the story very closely for us and has sent us this report. Listen in.
The Tamil Nadu government has suspended 2 senior drug inspectors owing to their negligence with regards this firm, Sreesan Pharmaceuticals. Sreesan Pharmaceuticals is now under authorities' scanner because it is their cough syrup Coldriff manufactured here at this facility in Kanchipuram, which has led to the death of more than 20 people and also left many people hospitalized. As for the authorities, Madhya Pradesh police has firstly arrested the proprietor of this firm, Mr. Rangarajan, and efforts are underway to take him to Madhya Pradesh. Further, the Tamil Nadu government has also cracked down against this facility. Here you can see notices that are pasted here. Firstly, the company has been asked to stop manufacturing. Then this notice has been pasted. The company has only a couple of days to respond, and the company needs to explain why there's been high contents, more than 48% of diethylene glycol, a deadly chemical, mixed in their cough syrup. They need to explain why. Failing which, their license will be revoked, and Tamil Nadu Health Minister has said that not just license revocation, but also the company will have to shut down if they don't reply to the government. So this, of course, has become a very serious issue given the loss of lives. And obviously, questions are being raised as to why is action happening after these deaths and why didn't the authorities actually crack down on this facility well before all this happened. From Chennai, Siddharth MP, WION, World is One.
Tensions are simmering across the Caribbean as U.S. strikes on alleged drug boats spark outrage and fear of a wider conflict. A Senate effort to limit President Donald Trump's power to order such attacks has failed, leaving him free to continue the controversial campaign. Colombia, on the other hand, says one of the bombed vessels may have been its own, while Venezuela accuses Washington of plotting regime change under the guise of anti-narcotics operations. With 21 people already dead and regional alliances fraying, the crisis is deepening by the day. From the Senate floor to the Caribbean coast, the stakes are rising increasingly fast. Here's more from the ground.
Tensions are boiling in the Caribbean. U.S. warships patrol turquoise waters. Wreckage drifts in the wake of missile strikes, and allies are turning uneasy. What began as Washington's crackdown on drug smugglers has now spiraled into a regional storm. Political, military, and deeply personal. On Wednesday, the U.S. Senate narrowly rejected a proposal to limit President Donald Trump's power to order such attacks. The vote, 48 in favor, 51 against, gives Trump a free hand to continue his controversial campaign. For over a month, at least 21 people have been killed so far in what the White House calls necessary operations to protect the United States from narcotics flowing in from Venezuela.
I'm thankful that the Trump administration has designated these cartels and narco-traffickers as foreign terrorist organizations, is because we must treat them like the foreign terrorist organizations post 9/11. We must treat them like the Al-Qaedas of the world because that's how we're operating.
But critics say the mission looks less like law enforcement and more like war. Senator Adam Schiff, who led the resolution, warned that Trump's strikes could set off an unintended conflict with Venezuela. Trump, however, seems undeterred. He has called the missions a success, boasting that there are no boats left in certain parts of the Caribbean. He even hinted that the crackdown might soon move to land routes used by traffickers. The Pentagon hasn't confirmed details or denied them.
They're not coming in by sea anymore, so now we'll have to start looking about the land because they'll be forced to go by land. And let me tell you right now, that's not going to work out well for them either.
Now the fallout is spreading. Colombia's President Gustavo Petro claimed that the last vessel bombed by U.S. forces might have been Colombian, with Colombian citizens on board. The aggression is against all of Latin America and the Caribbean, he declared on X. The White House fired back, calling Petro's claim baseless and reprehensible. Officials urged him to retract the statement and restore calm. But Petro refused, challenging Washington to release the names of those killed. His words added another crack to an already fragile alliance.
The United States looks forward to President Petro publicly retracting his baseless and reprehensible statement so that we can return to a productive dialogue on building a strong, prosperous future for the people of the United States and Colombia. Despite policy differences with the current government, Colombia remains an essential strategic partner.
Meanwhile, in Caracas, Venezuela's leaders accuse the U.S. of using drug control as a disguise for regime change. On Monday, Trump ordered his envoy, Richard Grenell, to end all diplomatic talks with Venezuela, effectively freezing all communication. After which, President Nicolas Maduro said his intelligence services had uncovered a false flag plot to bomb the U.S. embassy in Caracas. He claimed extremist groups were planning the attack to create chaos and give Washington an excuse to strike harder. Venezuela has since begun large-scale coastal military drills in La Guaira and Carabobo. Defense Minister Vladimir Padrino called the American buildup, which includes warships, a nuclear-powered submarine, and F-35 jets, a serious threat to peace.
Today, it is our duty to deploy across the entire state, because this is an ongoing operation. Military units already have their specific tasks. Mobilization began at midnight. At 5 a.m., we formally started. I hope our people understand, even those who do not support the revolution, that we are doing this for everyone.
Interior Minister Diosdado Cabello went further. The U.S. has set in place a death penalty for anyone it chooses to kill, he said on state TV. The waters of the Caribbean have never looked so restless. Bombed boats, angry presidents, and rumors of false flag plots swirl together, each wave hiding a deeper undertow. And as Rodriguez warned, the alleged embassy plot may have been just the beginning, a spark aimed at something far greater.
Approximately 1,000 demonstrators gathered in Madagascar's capital on Thursday after rejecting the president's offer for dialogue and engaging in confrontation with police who deployed tear gas and stun grenades to disperse them in various areas of the city. This violence signifies the third week of the most notable unrest the Indian Ocean island nation has experienced in years. I am here to support this strike, to demand our rights, because here in Madagascar, nothing is going well. Initially, we were demanding water and electricity, but in fact, the entire system in Madagascar is failing. In fact, we are also demanding that human rights, which are also trampled upon, be respected, because there are no rights left. The law enforcement who was supposed to protect us actually kill us when we demand our rights. Initially ignited by water and electricity shortages, the protests quickly broadened to encompass grievances regarding allegations of corruption and nepotism. Whatever we are asking of the president is for him to go. Whatever our idea as Malagasy people, we will win. We have wealth, let us go forward and let us protest. With the president's concession failing to appease protesters, the demand in Madagascar has now escalated from a changed government to a change in leadership itself.
This morning, 500 National Guard troops are active in Chicago, deployed for at least 60 days, despite an ongoing lawsuit challenging the move. Straight Arrow News was there as protesters took to the streets overnight, condemning the deployment. According to U.S. Northern Command, 300 troops come from the Illinois National Guard and 200 from Texas. They say the mission is to protect ICE agents, federal personnel, and federal property, not to police local streets. Today, a federal judge will hear arguments in a lawsuit filed by the state of Illinois and the city of Chicago seeking to block the deployment. In a post on Truth Social, President Trump called for Governor J.B. Pritzker and Mayor Brandon Johnson to be imprisoned for failing to protect ICE officers. Pritzker fired back, saying he will not back down, accusing Trump of full-blown authoritarianism. Johnson called the president's comments racist, saying this is not the first time Trump has tried to have a black man unjustly arrested. Meanwhile, in Portland, an appeals court has lifted an order blocking the deployment of Oregon National Guard troops. However, a broader ban on out-of-state troops entering Oregon remains in effect as the court prepares to hear oral arguments today.
And now a live look at the Broadview ICE facility from CBS Skywatch. Some of those National Guard troops are at the facility. We saw them arriving last night and walking around this morning. Asal Razai is at the facility with how the village is responding.
We have seen some activity out here this morning. We'll show you there are some protesters that are standing right at the edge of the barricade there. And you'll see Illinois State Police are here along with Broadview Police. And we did see some National Guard troops down by the fence. Broadview Village officials confirming 3 vans with approximately 45 Texas National Guard soldiers arrived at the ICE facility here late last night. We'll show you video we captured this morning where you can see troops walking along the temporary fence set up here at the entrance of the facility on Beach Street. We now know a total of 500 troops, 200 from Texas, 300 from here in Illinois, are positioned and ready for deployment. We're told they've been mobilized for initial period of 60 days. We also know President Trump has suggested, regardless of the court's decision today, he may decide to invoke the Insurrection Act and still send troops to guard federal properties, some of which have been the sites of recent protests. This morning, a statement from Broadview Village officials says in part that Broadview police officers observed the vans parked in the rear of the facility and all of the guards were sleeping. They went on to say, "We let them sleep undisturbed. We hope they will extend the same courtesy in the coming days to Broadview residents who deserve a good night's sleep too."
We live here. You know, respect us. We have dignity, respect. When you come to our communities, guess what you get to do? You get to leave and go back home. We're still stuck. We got kids that have sensory issues that live in that area. We have our seniors that's calling and complaining about what's going on. We have protesters, and we don't need that here. We didn't ask for it. The governor didn't ask for it. The mayor of Chicago didn't ask for it. And most certainly, I'm not asking for them because we can manage our own selves.
So far, it's been a quiet morning here. We've only seen a few protesters coming and going and a few National Guard troops inside the fenced area for now.
Jobs and education.
Money for jobs and education.
Not for war and deportation.
Not for war and deportation.
Money for jobs and education.
Money for jobs and education.
Not for war and deportation.
Not for war and deportation.
Money for jobs and education.
Money for jobs and Trump, no ICE, no troops! No Trump, no ICE, no troops! No Trump, no ICE, no troops! No Trump, no ICE, no troops! El pueblo unido, jamás será vencido! El pueblo unido, jamás será vencido!
Iran is expanding its defense capabilities. The Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has reportedly lifted all restrictions on Tehran's missile range. Now, this move signals a potential major shift to Tehran's defense posturing after the US and Israel conducted bombings on Iranian nuclear facilities in the month of June. While Ayatollah Ali Khamenei had previously capped the missile range to about 2,200 kilometers, which was sufficient to strike Israel, he has now removed any such limitation on the range that the Iranian missiles can have. Amidst a flurry of US sanctions that have been imposed on Iran, the Islamic Republic maintains that it is prepared to negotiate its nuclear program, but it will not hold any talks about its missiles. The Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has said that Iran is developing missiles with an 8,000-kilometer range, capable of hitting major American cities in the mainland, including places such as New York, Boston, Washington, or Miami. Last month, Iran had reportedly conducted the test of an intercontinental ballistic missile. Now, this missile is built using the Space Launch Vehicle technology. The ICBM is a long-range ballistic missile that can hit targets more than 5,500 kilometers away. A report by the U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency states that Iran can develop an ICBM by as early as 2035. I earlier spoke with Mr. David Patrick Karakos, who is an analyst on Iran and also an author of War in 140 Characters and Nuclear Iran, and listening to what he had to say.
Yeah, that's a very good question. So critically, what he hasn't done is lifted all restrictions on nuclear work, nuclear development. Ballistic missiles have always been a very important locus of messaging and symbolism for the Islamic Republic. They're extremely proud of their ballistic missiles program. Now, obviously, during the clash between Iran and Israel in June, which many people call the 12-day war, I do not, because the war is not over. The Iranian regime is still in place. It was clear that two things were clear. One, that Iran's air defenses were pretty much non-existent. Israelis were able to knock them out. But what was also clear, especially to me, who was in Israel at the time, covering the war was that its ballistic missiles, while many of them were intercepted by David Sling and Iron Dome and the other Israeli anti-missile systems, many of those ballistic missiles did get through. Israel is a country that is used to facing decades of missiles from Hamas, from Hezbollah, but these Iranian ballistic missiles were of a different order. Some got through and they did damage. So I think this is very much about messaging and symbolism. Also, don't underestimate another factor here, which is the Iranians probably want some kind of respite now. And this is one of the few areas of leverage they have. They could be half saying, give us some sanctions relief, let's do a deal, and maybe we'll start to put the brakes on our ballistic missile program. It's leverage.
NATO allies are discussing easing rules for pilots to let them shoot down Russian aircraft, report says. Russia has warned that NATO shooting down its aircraft would be a serious escalation that could lead to open war. NATO also considering deployment of armed drones along border with Russia.
Okay, anybody else?
Mr. President. What is the international stabilization force that's going to deploy to Gaza? What is that going to look like?
To be determined, really, I think there's going to be a large group of people determining what it will be, and a group of people funding it that are very rich countries are going to be funding it. People want to see this work. It's going to work. It's absolutely going to work. And it starts, it's already started. We've signed, as you know. Everybody's agreed. I think Monday is going to be a very big day, Monday, Tuesday. But it's going to be, depending on where you are, it's going to be a very big day. I think it's going to be a day of great celebration. I've never seen anything like it. The streets of so many countries right now, they're just roaring with love and with praise for the people that did this. And these are countries that did this. The whole world came together for this, even Iran. And I really thank them for it. Iran came out and said this is a good thing. This is a very good thing. So it was terrific. It's been a terrific experience for me. Thank you very much, everybody.
Today on Media Miss Minute, more than half of Jewish Americans say anti-Semitism has become a normal part of their lives. And President Trump is threatening to invoke the Insurrection Act, allowing military deployment in Democrat-led cities. I'm Craig DeGrelli. In today's Media Miss Minute, we're looking at two stories largely ignored by partisan media outlets. Let's start with a story being missed by the left. A new survey from the Anti-Defamation League and the Jewish Federations of North America finds 57% of Jewish Americans say anti-Semitism now is a part of life. More than half, 55%, say they've experienced at least one anti-Semitic incident in the past year. The Anti-Defamation League's CEO calls it a five-alarm fire for the U.S. and says it demands an urgent national response. Now to a story being missed by right-leaning media. President Trump says he's prepared to invoke the Insurrection Act if necessary. It's a story we told you about on Unbiased Updates yesterday. The president told reporters Monday he would use the law, which allows the president to deploy the military for law enforcement purposes under limited circumstances, if courts or local officials try to block his use of National Guard troops in Democrat-led cities.
Some of the highest rates of anti-Semitism in the country. Being Jewish, I have to fear for my life every day wherever I go.
At a gun range in a suburb of New York City, Jay Werner and a growing number of other Jewish people are honing their shooting skills through a club called Locks and Loaded. With more than 20 chapters nationwide, including 3 near New York City, the club bills itself as Jewish-owned and operated. It formed in response to rising anti-Semitism in America and the October 7, 2023 terrorist attacks in Israel. Anti-Semitism has shaped the lives of members like Werner, who still recalls an incident that happened when he was 12.
And I got jumped from behind by 2 guys who beat the snot out of me, called me a dirty Jew, didn't steal anything, just beat the snot out of me and walked away. Do I recognize that there is absolutely a threat out there of anti-Semitism and it's growing exponentially on a daily basis? Yes, I do. Do I think that Jews should learn how to defend themselves? Absolutely. Is owning a firearm and learning how to use a firearm part of that? Absolutely as well.
Last year marked the second highest year for hate crimes since the FBI started tracking such offenses in 1991. Though Jewish people account for just 2% of the U.S. population, the FBI's 2024 report said 70% of hate crimes were anti-Semitic attacks.
After October 7th, not only myself, but everybody in operations and everybody with the company felt the need to do something to physically and mentally help the community, help other people. And instead of donating money or volunteering, it was a thought, being a firearms instructor, why not train? Why not help facilitate the training of people in the community? Why not make it easy for people in the community and allies to get proper, safe training?
New Yorkers face some of the strictest gun laws in the nation. Just last month, a federal appeals court upheld a ban on carrying firearms in so-called sensitive areas of New York City, like the subway or Times Square. And Jewish Americans are less likely to own guns than those of other faiths. A 2018 poll found 70% of Jewish people surveyed said gun control outweighed the right to bear arms. Locks and Loaded has experienced some pushback. Locks and Loaded spokesperson Ian Friedman told Straight Arrow News, quote, "There are people who post anonymous comments from time to time who are critical of the organization for reasons that vary from opposition to firearms all the way to the other side, which is blatant anti-Semitism." Friedman added the club expected challenges, but is meant to empower everyone in the Jewish community.
We begin with breaking news out of the Middle East, where after more than 2 years of war, Israel and Hamas have agreed to the first phase of a peace plan that should see the release of all remaining hostages in Gaza in exchange for Palestinian prisoners and the withdrawal of Israeli forces to, quote, agreed upon lines. We've got team coverage for you on this morning. CBS News correspondent Natalie Brand is tracking reaction from the White House. You see her on the left. But let's begin with CBS News reporter Haley Ott in Tel Aviv. Haley, good morning. This is major news. An agreement is in place. What's the reaction there and what happens now?
Good morning. So, as you said, a deal to halt the fighting in Gaza and exchange all the remaining hostages for over 1,000 Palestinian prisoners has been agreed. There are 48 remaining hostages, around 20 of whom are believed to still be alive. Now, this is the first phase of that 20-point peace plan that the White House put out alongside Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu about 10 days ago. And there are still some more difficult elements of that proposal to be hammered out, like how Hamas will disarm, whether it will agree to step back from Palestinian politics, and who will govern Gaza. But all that will come later. Netanyahu is meeting with his cabinet and the government later today. After that government meeting, a 24-hour clock will begin for Israel to retreat to an agreed line still within Gaza. Then a 72-hour period will begin for Hamas, during which it will be required to release all the hostages.
And Haley, you've been reporting from Hostage Square throughout the week where the mood has been tempered. What's the difference today?
The mood is completely different today. Hopefully you'll be able to see behind me that the square is completely full. This is a symbolic place where people have gathered throughout the war to be with one another when hostages have been freed in other partial deals, to support one another and the hostage families. And now people are gathering here because, as you'd expect, this is an enormous day. For pretty much the last 2 years, the families of the hostages and many Israelis have been turning out on the street, protesting, demanding that their government agree to some sort of deal to bring all the hostages home and end the war in Gaza. And now it seems like that could be happening. There's still a ways to go in terms of the next phase of the White House proposal, but people are hopeful that the horrible chapter that's taken place over the last 2 years may be coming to a close. And we are here in Tel Aviv, but the feeling in Gaza today, our colleagues, their report is similar. It's one of relief and hope that this war might end. Over 67,000 people have been killed there in this war, according to local health officials, and the humanitarian situation has been catastrophic.
Yeah, and we saw one gentleman behind you kind of raising his arms in the air, an increased sense of hope, certainly. Haley, thank you very much. CBS News correspondent Natalie Brand joins us from the White House with more on this. Natalie, good morning. This is clearly a major win for President Trump, despite the big hurdles ahead. What are we hearing from the White House?
Good morning, Errol. The president calling this historic and unprecedented and thanking and crediting the negotiators and the mediators who helped make this possible, including those from Qatar, Egypt, and Turkey who worked with the U.S. during these peace talks this week in Egypt. Of course, the president's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, and his son-in-law and Mideast advisor during the first term, Jared Kushner, were there in person all week long. We heard the president say that they were getting close. Then yesterday, we had this moment here at the White House when, during a roundtable, Secretary of State Marco Rubio interrupted, walked over to the president, passed him a note, and the Associated Press photographer there kind of zoomed into the writing, which appeared to say that they were close and they needed him to approve a Truth Social post so the president could announce the deal first. Then later in the evening, we got that Truth Social post from the president saying that he was proud to announce that Israel and Hamas have signed off on phase 1 of this peace plan. He spoke about it to Fox News last night. Take a listen.
Gaza, we believe, is going to be a much safer place, and it's going to be a place that reconstructs, and other countries in the area will help it reconstruct because they have tremendous amounts of wealth, and they want to see that happen. And we'll be involved in helping them make it successful.
And the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's put out a statement saying he spoke to President Trump by phone last night and also invited him to address Israel's parliament, the Knesset. The president has floated going to the Middle East as early as later this weekend. There's also a letter that was sent from the families of hostages to the White House inviting the president to meet with them as well.
It's going to be a lasting peace, hopefully an everlasting peace. Peace in the Middle East. We secured the release of all of the remaining hostages, and they should be released on Monday or Tuesday. Getting them is a complicated process. I'd rather not tell you what they have to do to get them. There are places you don't want to be, but we are getting the hostages back on Tuesday, Monday or Tuesday, and that'll be a day of joy. I'm going to try and make a trip over. We're going to try and get over there. And we're working on the timing, the exact timing. We're going to go to Egypt, where we'll have a signing, an additional signing. We've already had a signing representing me, but we're going to have an official signing. Gaza is going to be slowly redone. You have tremendous wealth in that part of the world by certain countries, and just a small part of that, what they make will do wonders for Gaza. And I think you're going to see some tremendous countries stepping up and putting up a lot of money and taking care of things. But there's tremendous spirit like I haven't seen.
So the United States announced on October 9th of 2025 that it is planning on deploying approximately 200 troops to Israel in order to assist in supporting and monitoring a newly brokered ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas in the Gaza Strip. Now, this move was first reported on by the Associated Press and marks a pretty significant step in implementing the first phase of the ceasefire plan at halting the 2-year conflict in Gaza. Apparently, the troops are going to be drawn from U.S. Central Command and other global locations and will not enter Gaza but will be based within Israel, with the primary role of helping establish a, quote, civil military coordination center focused on facilitating humanitarian aid delivery, logistical support, and security coordination during the ceasefire. From what I've been able to find, the team includes specialists in transportation, planning, security, logistics, and engineering. It seems like this deployment is part of a larger multinational monitoring effort that also involves personnel from partner nations, non-governmental organizations, and private sector entities. So far, some initial arrivals have already began getting there in the region, with additional troops expected over the weekend to kickstart planning and operations. Apparently, this agreement follows a proposal from the Trump administration to end the ongoing war in Gaza, which has caused widespread devastation. Meanwhile, Israel and Hamas have reached a tentative accord on the first phase of the week, which includes a pause in hostilities and provisions for a 72-hour window starting Friday for potential hostage exchanges, as well as prison prisoner exchanges. However, some key issues are still remaining that are going to be probably a point of contention, specifically Hamas's disarmament, which they have so far seemed to not be super interested in. Now, the full withdrawal of Israeli forces from Gaza is also another point that I haven't seen any definitive dates or deadlines for. And then the formation of a future civilian government in the territory is another thing that's going to be a large hurdle. Now, this ceasefire is coming on the heels of months of diplomatic gridlock and represents a potential turning point in the conflict, though apparently Israeli leaders are still convening to formally approve it.